Hey YouTube, Alan back with another Mass System Monday, and for this week's pick, we're taking a look at another RPG in the system, and it's Miracle Warriors: Seal of the Dark Lord. Now, as you can see, I've had a little bit of problems kind of fitting everything on the shelf for this camera, and you may notice in the background I tried to have the video playing. This game doesn't actually have a demo, so it'll just keep looping on the title screen, but it's a decent enough title screen. Anyway, as I mentioned, Miracle Warriors, it's an RPG. It's a good example, I suppose, of the difference as well between Western and Eastern releases back in the day. So I've got both. I've got the Master System release and the Sega Mark III release. And here we have your Master System cartridge, plain vanilla, rather simple. Here you have your Mark III release, where you have the box artwork actually on the cartridge. A lot more appealing, in my opinion. And we'll get to the box art in a moment. Now, you might also notice this little guy. We'll come to him. He's a little figure. He's actually slightly damaged. He should have a sword. But we also have your manuals. Now, because it's an RPG, the Western release actually follows the portrait format, just like the Japanese one. And, there's a decent bit. It's full English in this case. Most Master System manuals are split, but these type of ones aren't. So you do get a decent bit of information, as you expect for RPG games. In the Japanese one, it's hard to say because, of course, I can't read any of this. And less kind of interesting presentation in my book. They do like their teeny little manuals, though, don't they? The most interesting thing, I suppose, is, as I mentioned, this figure and these items here. These are maps. So both the Western and the and the Japanese version come with maps. Now, my European version, the map isn't in the best condition. I'm trying to open it here and leave it, and it's been well loved, let's say. It's nice to have, but it's not a brilliant. It's not brilliant. You can see where people have also filled in. I've been to this quadrant. I've been to that quadrant, and that's kind of what this was for. So to be fair, they've made decent use out of it. It's not terrible. It's kind of more that it's split in a couple of places, and they've had to sell tape it, but it's a good example of it at least being well loved. But I'm not so upset because, of course, I have the Japanese version, and you might notice this is not paper. This is actually a cloth map. And again, it's just so nice in comparison to what we got over here. Like, this is gorgeous. Like, you could frame this and actually put it up. I'm actually very, very tempted to do so at some point. And, it's in perfect condition. Oh, apologies for the background. Ashley obviously disagrees with that. Now, of course, you also had this little figure. This guy here, as I said, he's meant to have a little sword, but other than that, he's kind of fine. I read on Twitter, and it could be true. Part of what you're meant to do is you were meant to use him on the map, kind of give you a rough idea where you are. Very much an augmented reality type of experience for the time. So yeah, it kind of does make sense. You want a placeholder for your real map because the game doesn't have a map system. At least I assume it doesn't. To be honest, I haven't played it much. It's your typical kind of 8-bit RPG. This was ported from a computer release, and other than kind of trying, the opening stage a little, I can't really comment too much. I'll come back to Japanese box in a minute. We have a nice cover back. People always make fun of the mass system, the grids and all that sort of stuff. But this is actually, it's got a consistent teaming. It's got nice artwork. And, you have your full English at the back. You got your game save, so it's got your battery backup. It's 2 meg in battery, as they say there. And what we have here, fate calls D to bar evil's way. The Dark Lord terrain has removed the golden seal from the Pandora passage to let monstrous creatures roam the 5 lands. An ancient prophecy foretells of 4 brave warriors destined to battle terrain and return the seal to its rightful place. Art thou the one fated to lead the miracle warriors? Does noble blood flow in thy vein? I've no idea, but they certainly like their oldie English. You can kind of see from the screenshots, it's very kind of old RPG, party of 4 and move through a lot of text. But for the time, I'm sure this would have been pretty entertaining if you're looking for that big form factor. Now, the Japanese box. There is one big difference, which I'll touch on, as I said in a second. On the back, 2 color screenshots, slightly bigger, and text I can't read. Again, I think the artwork doesn't look too bad for that type of RPG experience. But yeah, I've been touching and I've been jumping over it. Artwork difference. You have your heroes here and here, and you have your evil, presumably, creature. But notice how different she is in the two releases. Big one here, obviously, she is naked. And she is certainly not here. And I can only assume that this is done for kind of placate the kind of moral standards of a Western release. But either way, it just shows you the difference between cultures at the time and probably still to a certain degree today. Anyway, that's all there is to say at the moment. It's an interesting game, but certainly I find as much as anything the kind of physical commodities make it an interesting collectible item today. Getting harder and harder to find, especially things like the map in good condition. So if you see one, it's actually worth picking up, I'd say. Anyway, until next time.